All right. So I am Sarah, the undergraduate program specialist, and Chad here is one of the faculty members here at SAPL. So between the two of us, we are the faculty co-coordinators for the undergraduate research summer studentship. So URSS for short. I'll talk a little bit about that and what that means. And this is a session for both faculty and students. So we want to go over what URSS is, what it entails, and then at the end we can chat about any questions you may have. And we definitely have some people who've done this before, so we definitely will have them share their experiences here. So today we'll do an overview of URSS, talk a bit about the studentship types that come with URSS, and then the timeline, next steps, any resources you have access to at this point, and then we'll go into questions.
You're recording?
Yes. According to chat.
I hit the record button. Does it look like it's not stopped, maybe?
That's screen share.
Oh, it's never mind share.
Yeah, I think this is lengthy, it's recorded.
Yeah, it's, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for checking. So with an overview, some of the main highlights, this summer studentship happens from May to August. And it can run 8, 12, or 16 weeks, depending on the type of project you want to do and the length of time you think it will take. And depending on how long it is, will indicate how much you will get paid for that summer studentship. So if you're only doing 8 weeks, for example, it's only $3,750, and pretty much it'll add up to $1,875 a month. So that's something to think about as you're thinking about the financial part of it. But this is essentially you're getting paid to do research with the supervisor. So following that, you are working with a faculty supervisor, so an undergrad student and a faculty supervisor, and that faculty supervisor has to be a full-time UCalgary academic staff member. So unfortunately, any sessional instructors, they don't fall under this category as an example. So if there's someone that you want to work with and you're not sure, please check with us and we can double check it for you. And the other thing is you're not restricted to just SAPL faculty members. It can be any faculty member across campus. And likewise, for faculty members, you can work with any student across campus as long as they're a UCalgary undergrad student. For students, there is a minimum 2.0 GPA. So basically, if you are in good academic standing, if you're not on academic probation, which everyone isn't at this point for PDCI, you are good to apply for this. And if you're unsure, you can definitely check with me. And the great thing about the URSS is it's one application. So it's one application that you submit with your supervisor with one project idea, and it goes towards 15 possible awards. So we consider for all those different categories, you don't have to figure it out. So a bit more details for the faculty supervisor. For all faculty supervisors, if you are engaging in URSS, you are required to be an application reviewer. So what that means is once we've received all of our applications, they will be divvied out amongst all of the faculty supervisors, and everyone will get a little to review based on our rubric that's provided. You will not be reviewing your own, so you don't have to worry about that piece. And as a faculty supervisor, you will be acting as a mentor and of course a supervisor for the research that's being conducted over the summer. You'll be working with the student, you'll be guiding them, teaching them how to do research or challenging them in ways to help them grow and develop as young researchers. And of course, I mentioned that you'll be working with undergraduate students only. So this is all for students who are doing a 4-year degree with UC. And there could be an award supplement, and I'll go into that in a bit. But there is a base amount that is awarded to students. If as a supervisor, you have extra funding and you would like to top it up or you'd like them to do extra work, you are definitely okay to do that, but you're not required. So if the student's getting paid the minimum $7,500 and you're like, I want to pay them more, but I just don't have the funds to do it, that's totally fine. And in terms of the application, the student will work with you on all the portions of it, what they're going to submit, but after the student submits the main application, the supervisor also needs to submit their portion. There are 2 parts to it, 2 deadlines. You don't have to wait until your deadline, you can always submit it right after the student's done. The other thing to keep in mind is as a faculty supervisor, you can only take a maximum of 2 students. So what that means is a student can only submit one application, but a supervisor can submit two, meaning they could have two students under their wings, two different projects. Yes.
Okay. Last year they moved the number to three, did
That-
you reduce it again?
That was an exception for last year. We can't apply it to this year and assume that it would be the same. So that is why we're saying the maximum two. For any faculty members who want to take more students under their wing or thinking of working with more students, I would recommend that you consider co-supervising. So bringing in another faculty member to work with you so that they could submit the application instead as the supervisor for that student. So that's something to also consider. Some more student details. So this is open to all students in all years in the program. So year one, all the way to year 4 or 5, whatever year you are in your undergrad program. The other thing is you can reapply. So for any students who did research last year and want to do it again this year or continue on, they can actually reapply. At last year's meet and greet where we met other students, there was one student who did 3 summer studentships. So pretty much in 3 summers, they were able to engage in research based off of this. So you can definitely reapply and you can do a continuation of your project or a new project, whatever it may be. And in terms of research area, it is really what you want to do. So it doesn't have to be SAPL specific. You can go beyond what you've learned. You can go into different topics. You aren't restricted to one thing or your faculty itself. And as I mentioned before, you can work with any faculty member. So if you've met someone in Workland and you want to work with that supervisor about something, you can definitely do that. So I mentioned this earlier too, but it's 1 award, 1 project. So essentially when you are applying, you're applying for, as a student, 1 project and can only get 1 award. So URSS covers around 15 awards, but you can only get 1 of those. So for example, you can't get a peer award and get a USRA award at the same time. It's only 1 award for 1 project, and you can't have 2 sources of funding for 1 project regardless. So that's just something to keep in mind. And students sometimes will have questions about work or school while doing research. The expectation for doing the summer studentship is around 35 hours a week of research. So you are expecting to do around full-time job equivalent of summer research. And if you're thinking of taking an extra class, or if you're thinking of doing a part-time job, something like that, I highly recommend that you chat with your supervisor about what that looks like. Is it feasible with your schedule? And also for your own wellness too, to make sure that you're prioritizing a balance of your work and other things to make sure that it's all feasible within that timeline. So talk a bit more about the studentship types. I know I kept mentioning around 15 awards. So you submit 1 central application, but that helps you apply for all of these different awards for consideration. But realistically, we went through the details for each of these awards. Apply would be the last column there. So peer, which is the program for undergraduate research experience. It has the general peer, and then there's peer that's transdisciplinary. There's also the URSS, or the Undergraduate Student Research Award. And then this one is more of an unknown. It depends on the different types of donor awards we get each year. Sometimes if we get a bump up in money from a certain place, you might get awards around that area. So for example, last year there was a Shell Energy Award. So that was something we weren't aware of either, but because there was a donation from Shell, there were some awards allotted for students who were working on something related to energy science. So those ones are kind of a TBD situation. So I'll talk a little bit more about here. The program for undergraduate research experience, this one is a specific award that is, I would arguably be the most flexible one. It's open to any U of C student, and it's open to any discipline. And there's also the additional EDI and transdisciplinary sections they have with it. So I mentioned here with EDI, there's Synovus and SU Quality money. They have generously donated some money to peer to help support any underrepresented student populations who are interested in applying research studentships. On top of that, the transdisciplinary research team has also joined in with peer to fund any research topics that have a transdisciplinary component to it. So something that goes beyond your current discipline, be it that it could be the faculty member that you're working with. It could be just the topic and the type of approach you're adding to your research. So it could be amongst many different things. And if you're not sure if it's transdisciplinary, you can definitely check in with Chad and I, and we can look into it for you to double check. But you don't have to assume that it has to be with a faculty member outside of SAPL. So for example, like Alberto, you and your student worked on a project that was actually eligible for the transdisciplinary peer award, and that was just based on the topic. So the other award is the Undergraduate Student Research Awards, the USRA. And USRA is actually split into 3 different types of awards. So we have the SIR, so the Canadian Institute of Health and whatnot, and that one is more on the health and effective health services. So realistically, the 2 that we could probably focus on as a faculty would be the social sciences and humanities research. So SSHRC or NSERC, which is the Natural Sciences and Engineering Research Award. So these ones are government funded ones, and they are subject to certain mandates and specifications. So it really does depend on the topic, and I think it is relevant according to the people who vet these awards. So specifically about the USRA, it does require a top up. So this is different from peer. Peer has the full 7,500 or less, depending on how many weeks you do research. But for USRA, it is 6,000 and then a 1,500 top up that's required from the supervisor or the faculty. So that's something that if you are intending on working with a student related to USRAs, you want to think about, do you have the funding to help top up this award? Because you will not be considered for this award if in the application you do not indicate that you're willing to top up the money to support this. So we had an application last cycle where they qualified for NSERC, but because they didn't check off the top up, they didn't get the award until it was brought to our attention. And when we were able to get that sorted out, the award was given to that supervisor. So we're not always lucky enough to find out about these. So it would be helpful that if you are able to talk up on it, to check back to ensure that you are also considered for this type of award. The other thing to keep in mind with USRA is it is more controlled in that we don't know the number of awards given out per faculty. It is a proportionate distribution based on the available awards and scholarships and grants. And so for last year, as an example, there was only 1 NSERC award allocated to SAPL. But when we checked this year, they weren't able to confirm that yet. So it really is it depends situation. And the other part to keep in mind is these awards are definitely a lot more specific because it is government funded. So the USRA website does have more information about what are the different mandates, what are the different specifics. So if we are aiming to work this category as faculty supervisors, I would recommend that you take a quick look at what those need to see if what you're working on aligns with that. Definitely work with a student on this, but I think as faculty supervisors and experienced researchers, you probably know what to look for and what might work and might not work. The other thing I wanted to bring up is that there are more funding targeted to Black and Indigenous scholars this year. So we were told that for Black scholars, the SIR, the SSHRC, and SIR and SSHRC, there are funds allocated to that. And then for NSERC, there's actually unlimited funding for projects related to that. So the part where I said there's only 1 per faculty, that quota is out when it comes to Black scholars. And the other thing to keep in mind, though, even with the unlimited funding, that top up still comes into play. So it still is the $6,000, and then you have to top up the 1,500 to be eligible for this award. Likewise, for Indigenous scholars, NSERC is the one that is unlimited. So I just wanted to highlight here for any students who are Black or Indigenous and would like to do research, this is a really good opportunity to get involved because there will be more opportunities for these groups of students. So in terms of the timeline, So right now, today, like I think it's really important that we do the info session, so you get a bit of an introduction to what URSS is. But then November 20th is a great date to save. That is the faculty meet and greet. This is open to faculty as well as students, and I highly recommend that you save this date. Not only will there be free food at that event, but you will be able to get an introduction to URSS. You will also get a quick intro to all the different faculty coordinators. So everyone will do introduction of their faculty, what they do, and then there will be a panel session where previous students will get to talk about their experiences, and you'll get to ask some questions. And then at the end, there will be booths set up for each faculty, and students can actually go around and meet different faculties. So especially for BDCI students here today, if you are curious about doing research outside of SAPL, this is a really good opportunity to go and ask around. For example, if you're doing something related to structures, but you want to look at more of the physics side of things, it's a great time to go and chat with someone in the science booth to see what are potential supervisors to talk to, any recommendations that they have, etc. And on the other end, for any faculty members who are interested in meeting students outside of BDCI as well, this is a great place to come into that faculty meet and greet, because you will see a lot of students come by asking questions about SAPL, what kind of research you do, what kind of research they think they could do with you. So it's a very good opportunity to meet potential students to work with.
And one question, what's the location this year for that event?
It's going to be in engineering. So ENC 70 is the location. I think later on we'll have the location noted, and also a QR code to actually sign up for the event.
Yeah, I think how, what's the format for the meet and greet, the supervisors like give a pitch of some sort, have they attack students?
Last year, we had the booth set up and then people came and we chatted with them. So we kind of organized the sessions. For us this year, we're still discussing what to do, but some of the plans probably we will have more information. So for example, a copy of the pamphlet for the symposium is something that we want to show our potential students. That is something that we culminate to. And we will have a QR code to our expression of interest web form. So this is where students can sign up for things.
In terms of marketing, you're sort of making yourself known, Here also builds online profiles for faculty that are interested in taking on students. They're made public on the website, and we're able to drive students directly to that instructor outside of that event that way, where the event is more formatted in its sort of presentation mode towards the different faculties participating, and then a sort of like social. So will those profiles be prepared by November?
It can be. So as a follow-up to today, we'll be sending out an email with the reporting link, but also if you are interested in submitting a profile, the email to send it to. If you already had a profile created last year, you can just let us know to reactivate it. So the peer team is looking into this. So we just need to make sure we send the content to them and even a photo if you have one, and they will send it up for you. We don't have a specific deadline. They didn't give us one, but I would say as soon as possible so that you can get it out sooner. Ideally by before the meet and greet, because then you can tell students to check out your profile when you're chatting with them. So from our end, we'll be providing QR codes at our booths so that students who want to check out profiles, or if they want to fill out an expression of interest form, they can use that. So I would say, like, any faculty members, if you want to go to the meet and greet, if you have anything you want to show or anything you want to bring students to, you are definitely welcome to write that, even just to encourage them to work with you or get them excited about the research that they can do with you.
And I'll even say for my part, like, I'll be present there, and just like last year, I'll be talking to students about their interests and then trying to push them towards instructors within our cohort who have made themselves clear, and that profile enables us to do that. So even if you don't have to be the person, we're working in the team to get those students to you.
2 items. Do we have a conflict with our accreditation visit? At that time, that day? So we're definitely done by that point of the day. No dinner. Okay. Having cleared that up,
Thank
see
you.
if our whole program had
We
a
can always
conflict.
see your photo because we know you like taking photos, and we can put it at the booth.
Okay.
Right, this is the QR code I'm gonna have Chris
Yeah, and then this is like school-wide calendar.
Yes.
Yeah.
University.
Yeah, last year we had, what was it, over 30 or even 50% of BPCS students who showed up to the meet and greet, so it was great. A lot of people showed up and it's really fun. You get free pizza and you get to go around and chat with people. So come for the food. So just mentioned here, starting November 20th, we will have an updated web form that students can fill out just to help us organize as a faculty. So this is SAPL only, but for any students who want to work with a SAPL faculty member, we ask that they fill out that expression of interest so that we can then funnel it to the relevant faculty members to review. And some of them may have already talked to those students, but it's just a good way to keep track of who's applying, who's interested, especially those who are just calling and not talking to you. That might also help figuring out if you have more than enough students. And then from November 20th to January 27th, that's where the application process is happening. So if there are some students who are reaching out to you already, definitely start having those conversations, go for coffee, talk about research topics, work on, what that looks like. And then looking at the application form itself, what are the parameters, like what are the things that you want to structure based on that conversation. The student can start working on their portion of the application with the faculty and supervisors help with guiding what to keep, what to take out. And then January 27th is the deadline for students to submit their portion of the application. And then following that, January 31st is a supervisor deadline. So again, as I mentioned before, you don't have to wait till the 31st. Once the student's done submitting, you can submit your part and go from there. Should be in tandem, so you shouldn't have to work in addition to what you've already done. And finally, between February and March, that's when we get the applications divvied out. So that's where we will need faculty members' help with reviewing. There is a deadline that they provide, so we try to divvy it up quite fairly amongst everyone. So depending on how many applications we get, we're looking around 2 or 3 each. So you're using a rubric and reviewing those and then submitting to us so that they can go through the peer team or the URSS team to determine who gets the awards. And one thing to keep in mind is this process is really important that we pay attention to the deadlines because not us, but a different faculty had some student applications dropped strictly because they were not reviewed in time. So we didn't do it, but I always remind everyone just in case because we don't want to do that. Yes.
Have we set a deadline for students to submit their expression of interest?
We have not, but we want to encourage students to submit it as soon as November 20th. And then we will be sending them out to faculty members as we submit. And I just want to keep it open for now until we know what's coming in and how late it is, because these expressions of interest are not guaranteed research collaborations. You can send them in, they are reviewed, but the faculty members can decide yea or nay in engaging with that. So definitely last year we had a variety of expressions of interest and we just forwarded on and then it was up to the faculty. So there's no obligation where you must work with them. You can definitely let them know like, hey, unfortunately, I won't be able to work with you on this. That's totally fine. And that's also just a reminder for students too. I do recommend that you think about submitting quality applications as well as like expressions of interest. So not like pulling up a list of all the faculty members and just submitting one for every single person and hope that one of them works. I do encourage you to reach out to some of them ahead of time or see how you can reach them and look at their profile and see if that research is something that aligns with what you're interested in. Yes.
So is that this expression of interest, like emailing or sending a letter to someone in faculty that you were interested in working with them?
Partially. We do recommend that you talk to them personally.
Okay.
So like emailing them or talking to them in person. This expression of interest is more for our tracking so that we know who wants to work with who and that we also send it over just in case. So for example, let's say a student wants to work with Chad, but hasn't talked to Chad yet, but submitted the expression of interest, then I also forward it to Chad, but Chad might go, oh, like I haven't met the student before or whatever it may be. He might make that connection or he might go, you know what, like I don't have time, so I'm not going to engage. So the part that makes it more successful is on the student side where you are reaching out to the instructor. Ideally, if you've already talked to them and they already know that you want to work with them and they're interested, and then you submit the expression of interest. That would be the most effective way. But either way, we will forward that expression of interest for faculty members to review. Yes.
Oh, you can ask first.
Try to some follow-up. Is that our own format, the expression of interest, if we do send something like that?
There is a format. It's
That
a
we
web
have.
form and you
Okay.
fill out all the information. So it does guide you through all the requirements.
So I was just gonna ask, is the research topic, is it determined by the supervisor or is that?
It's by the student.
Okay, so the student proposes it and then the supervisor.
Yeah, so you propose it and you work with the supervisor to discuss what's feasible, what isn't, especially if you are working on a topic that is the expertise of that faculty member. They can probably give you more tips on how to tweak it to make it align with what they're doing and what you're doing to make it a very fulsome collaboration.
And so if you have a topic in mind, and maybe you think it aligns with a different faculty as well, is there a way to get in contact with them besides the meeting?
Yeah, you can definitely reach out to them. Again, you can talk to me or Chad as well if you are looking for certain faculty members' contact. We also have some SAPL faculty members' information on our website, so you can also look at that as well.
Which may or may not be up to date.
Maybe.
And whose fault is that?
Sarah, if I can add to that, I would also say that if you maybe don't have a faculty member in mind, but you have a topic or an area that you're really interested in, come talk to Sarah and I, and we can maybe help make that connection or make some suggestions about faculty members who might be interested in that same topic or have expertises that they can apply to that.
Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Alberto, you have something?
Yeah, I wanted to add another nuance to that question. I think if you also have a topic in mind, but you're not exactly sure what particular dimension of it, you can also, if you have a faculty member that you're interested in working with, you can be like, hi, Enrica, I would love to do something related to landscape architecture, but I'm not really sure what about landscape architecture. What are some of your perspectives, right? And then I'd be like, well, actually, I have this exciting thing here. Maybe we can do something related to, dance and creative expression, right? So it's definitely can be definitely kind of a conversation with potential customer.
I would say that in general, the best match about the answer in the expertise of the supervisor. The best is in which investor and the partner people.
That is very good advice. Thank you, Enrica. But also say, if possible, do a little bit of homework before even going to the faculty meet and greet. So think about what are things you're interested in. Think about what faculties you might want to visit and then have that ready to go and ask. And I think last year we definitely saw some students who had their phone out with notes about like, I want to do this, this, and this. Who do I talk to? And that's also very relevant. So don't be afraid to have your notes ready and ask all the questions. Okay, so in terms of next steps, so these are the different things. So I would highly recommend that you attend for the student side, the URSS workshops. So there are a bunch of workshops like how to approach a supervisor, how to talk to a supervisor about your research topic. So those are things where it would be very helpful because the URSS team recognizes that as students who are new to research, you might have some anxieties or things, or skills that you think you might be lacking. These workshops are really helpful for getting you prepared for those conversations and what you need to do for research. I know some of you signed up for the Ready for Research workshop at the beginning of this semester, so hopefully that was also helpful as well to introduce you to what research could look like. And I mentioned the faculty meet and greet, so ENC 70 is the location. So in engineering, and depending on the interest, we can definitely try to go together or set up a group, because I know engineering can be a little bit confusing and hard to navigate at times. So definitely good to go as a team of people. And then finally, making a connection. That's probably the biggest thing right now is in your lectures, in any of the things you're doing, if you're meeting faculty members from SAPL and you really want to work with them, or when they do a guest lecture and it's really interesting, definitely follow up with them, chat with them, ask them about their research, ask them about the things that they our expert level ad and see how you could work with them, get that conversation started even before the faculty. So really making that connection and yes, to what?
At practice, we
Yes.
have identifiers that we identify who the sample students are. In case we're interested in primarily sample students and not, undergraduates. Where
Everyone that will work.
Okay, everyone wear your BDCI t-shirt, okay? Yeah, wear your t-shirt. But you can ask one of us, like Tyler, after my class. Yes.
Yeah.
We'll be your, we're
be a
identified.
mass of students, friends are distinguished from the school. Think about it.
So this is the unofficial call to wear your BDCI t-shirt to the meet and greet. Represent your faculty.
And we do the software faculty. Software teacher.
That's a good idea.
Like it. So finally, these are some of the QR codes to some of the things I talked about. So the first QR code is just the information about URSS. And then the second one is the application guide. So that's a very helpful guide that takes you through the different parts of your application, what to focus on, what to do. The third one is the rubric. So this is how your application will be evaluated. So this is very important when you're working with your supervisor to start looking at how do you try and get the highest grades for each section and what are you including in your application that will hit all of those parameters. And then the last one is the USRA information. So that one is the one with the SIR, the SHRC, and the NSERC. So that one talks a bit more about those very specific awards. And if you're looking at the mandates and what you need to qualify for those, that's where you can find more information about it. And these are just slides shared by the URSS team. So this is more about, again, the meet and greet. So this QR code will take you to the registration page, so you can definitely register. I do recommend registering ahead of time just so that you can get the invite. They do send out a calendar invite so that could be saved on your Outlook. Helpful. And so this just gives you an overview of the meeting. And as I mentioned, they will have pizza and faculty tables.
Last year, the auditorium, I think, was completely packed. It's worth getting there early for seating. I would recommend. It's a big event.
We had really good representation last year from BDCI. I think we were sitting near the front as the coordinators, and then we saw just like a massive group of BDCI members that came in together. So you can do that again. Highly recommend. And this is the link. Again, it's just for more information on the summer studentships that the URSS team has shared. And then you can stop for questions. Do you mind stopping the recording chat? Thank you. I know we've had some questions already during, but are there any other questions? Yeah.
So we have